Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today I'm going to be talking about Navori Quickblades. So this one's going to be a bit harder because this item is built by literally no one. It's built less than Radiant Virtue. So it was really hard to search through the data on this item. And because of that, the tier list has kind of been restructured. So S is going to be OP, A is going to be it works, B is going to be it's possible that it works, but maybe slight lack of data, or it's not as good as the other two tiers. C is it might have an interaction. I'm going to talk about Pantheon W possibly, maybe. I don't know well enough at the moment, so that one's something I need to look at. D is lack of data if you don't build the item, and E is not a crit user, so it won't actually benefit them whatsoever. So I'm going to get rid of a ton of champions here because a lot of them don't build crit, so this is pretty easy. I'm going to I'm gonna put Kled. Kled is one where it's like, you know, this champ might have an interesting interaction, but I don't know at the moment. Okay. Also, I'm planning on streaming for the first time in like forever at 4 o'clock British Standard Time, which would be 2 hours after this goes live. Oh yeah, and if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. It massively helps the algorithm. And yeah, let's go into it. Okay, so Kled, this champion could possibly build it because he has the W where you can really quickly auto in a fast succession, and that would allow you to get the 15% off your abilities really quickly, like within a second. I'm pretty sure. He attacks really quickly. It's hard to tell right now because he is borderline 0 games with this item. But with how it should work, so what Navori does is Transcendence is if you have at least 6% crit chance, your attacks reduce your non-ultimate ability cooldowns by 15% of their remaining cooldown, which is really big because if you have a champ which can auto in quick succession 3-4 times in a row, thinking Pantheon W, Kled W, stuff like this, then you can get a lot of cooldown on your abilities. So if you cast your abilities and then get the procs off, and then you can almost cast your abilities again because the cooldown is down by 60%. That could be pretty huge if you're building like a crit variant. But this does mean you are gonna have to go crit variations of these champs, which can be kind of difficult. Pantheon, you could go the Collector, LDR, even Shieldbow variation with Bork or Kraken as your mythic, with Shieldbow or Kraken as your mythic and Bork as an option. And your abilities do more damage based on the amount of critical chance you have, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So champions which like this will be something like GP, where he'll get 20% more damage on his barrels, because GP builds almost entirely crit. He goes Prowlers and then I think 80%, and that would equal a lot of damage. 16% increase on barrel damage. It's pretty huge. I'm pretty sure it also outdamages crit when you build him with Navori. So Gangplank is what I'm going to talk about. Something like Teemo is another champ which is interesting because Teemo used to be able to go the AD variation with Shieldbow, and that seems to have gone. Doesn't look like it's really played anymore. It's non-existent as an item on Teemo. I'm trying to find it as we go along. Yeah, it's been built twice. So it's stuff like this where it might work. It's like Kennen. Kennen got a really nice buff where he got his E now no longer sticks with the attack speed cap of 2.5 seconds. So if you were to build attack speed Kennen, you could do some really interesting stuff. But once again, I'm pretty sure this champ's gonna have maybe like 3 games of it. So yeah, 4 games, and it lost 3 of them. So it's a lack of data instance. Something like Rengar was one where it's like, this champ likes his abilities being on a short cooldown. He very much wants to keep rotating because he gets the empowered ability, and then he can use that with his Q, and when his Q crits, I'm pretty sure his Q always crits, so technically he would always be getting 15% back off that. I'm going to presume that's how the interaction works, or at least it should be how it works. So there might be an interaction with this champion. It's like some of these, but these ones have a lack of data. Yeah, Rengar also has very limited data. I'm gonna put Pantheon here. It might have an interaction as well. Olaf, crit variation isn't played anywhere near as much as the main Gore Drinker, Stridebreaker, Triforce, and Ravenous even at this point. like shield bow is played 2% of the time. Of how many of those games of the 400 that shield bow is build Navori? 9 of them. So once again, it's kind of hard to tell. He might be one of these champs where it's possible that it works. So I'll put him here because this is the first one on this list, which is like, yeah, this champ builds crit on the odd occasion. I guess Rengar technically falls into the same category, but I'll put them in here because there's other ones which kind of pop up, which do some other things. So Poppy, no. Fiora, no. Riven, no. Riven's Essence Reaver build is gone. It doesn't exist anymore, which is kind of sad. Back when Essence Reaver used to be a 70 AD, 2,900 or was it 3,300? It was an item which gave 70 AD, 30 ability haste, and pretty sure it had some sort of unique interaction, but I can't remember. This is when I started playing the game. Riven was the first of the champ I played, but I played very limited amount of times with the old items. So things like Roa and Hextech Gunblade aren't exactly nostalgia to me because I never really played with them, which is very unfortunate. So Set and okay, so Set I'm also going to put here. Set doesn't really have a crit variation, so there's no real point doing that. Gangplank! I think it's overpowered on Gangplank. I think this is the only champ possibly on this list where this item might be broken. I'm failing to spell Gangplank. Gangplank, yes, let's go. Well, I'm going to quickly look at it because it should be pretty interesting to weigh it up to So, as a third item, which has built a significant amount, it's got a 60% win rate, which is really high compared to IE, which is a 51%. But then as a fourth, even as a fourth item, win rate still 5% difference. So Navori GP is probably overpowered. I think you can go Essence Reaver, Prowler's Claw into Collector or LDR, depending on the circumstance of the game, and then you can go Navori. And Gangplank might be broken this patch, but not a lot of people play him. Plus, it's a bit more niche. I mean, from what I can see in the data, though, Gangplank's win rate's 51%. That's really, really high for Gangplank. So definitely try playing Gangplank. The shop's probably broken at the moment. Renekton doesn't have a crit variation. Neither does Aatrox. That's Camille. I'm just going to skip over a couple which possibly could work. No crit variation. Iradia is an interesting one. I'll talk about that in a bit. Kraken Chunder doesn't really exist. No crit, nah. I don't think either of the Wind Brothers can run this item because both of them, the way both Yone and Yasuo work is their Q is reduced by attack speed, the cooldown on it, so it wouldn't interact with the Q. And the other two abilities, with Yasuo and his E, it doesn't, I'm pretty sure it also doesn't have reduction with actually his E would have reduction, but the problem with the way Yasuo's E work is as you level it, its cooldown on minions gets shorter, so you're almost always going to be because it would technically be a 0.1 second cooldown. Technically it's I mean, yeah, it wouldn't reduce it almost whatsoever. So and Yasuo's W and Yone's W don't really need CDR because they're very long cooldowns, and they're like the only long cooldowns, but they are defensive for a purpose. Wind Wall and Yone's W, the slash, which gives him a shield. They're designed to be long cooldown spells as just defensive options. So both Wind Brothers, I haven't made a tier for. I've realised I might have an interaction lack of data. I need a wooden build tier. I might do this where and that the what are we gonna actually no, we'll leave it like here, this, and we'll put them in an F tier. I'll make an F tier, and this will act as a that wasn't the right one. Whoops. We're really good at this. It's quite functional. Okay, nice. Let's go. I'll put this as just a tier, which is temporary. It will be if your champ builds crit and just call it bad. If your champ builds crit and you just don't really want it, so both Yasuo and Yone will go in this tier. I believe Yasuo is still around here. Graves probably won't build Navori. Graves is autos interact as a For unique interactions, they act as a single like it's the first pellet which hits. I'm pretty sure that's how it works against tab eyes as well. If I quickly have a look at this, I'm gonna go with jungle Graves data because Toplane Graves doesn't have enough games at the moment. It's definitely popping up in popularity though, which is really, really nice. Both mid and top Graves have now got a 5% pick rate from both being sub 1%, I'm pretty sure. Definitely hot up on that train as you can before Ravenous gets nerfed. It looks like it's going to be really good. Not really built a lot, so just a lack of data. But there might be a case of his E is on a shorter cooldown with crit. Even though you're losing a bit of damage, your Q, the damage you get on your Q, it doesn't really help smoke screen because the damage is minimal on that. You're not using it as damage shield. It would be the E cooldown, which would be the huge one where you can continuously dash more towards the enemy. So that might be a possible interaction, but for now it's not got a lot of games, so kind of hard to tell. Aurelia build shield bow or jack show. Aurelia mid played more than Aurelia top at the moment. That's interesting to see. But it's been Aurelia top favored for quite a while. Ravenous is definitely her best item first. I'm pretty sure Bork is slightly out. You can go Bork into health stackers obviously. But from what I can see, it's going to be Ravenous into either Jackshaw or Shieldbow. Probably personal preference mainly on that one. Is Navori built on Aurelia? Not really. It feels like it wouldn't have any great interactions. Aurelia's W and E don't really need more damage. The cooldown would be nice on them. And if it interacts with your Q, then that could be substantial. Because if you're queuing through all the minions and you're critting on your Q, because I'm pretty sure your Q crits, from what I remember. It might not, that might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it does. Then there might be an interaction there, because your Q would also be amped in damage, because it amps ability damage. Tryndamere. I saw someone talk about Navori and Tryndamere and saying it's like a bait item on Tryndamere. I'll have to have a look. I don't know off the top of my head. I know that Ravenous first Tryndamere is really, really good at the moment. Makes him a really, really strong top laner, like a 52% win rate top laner, which is quite nice for Tryndamere, who usually hovers around the middle of the pack. Navori is definitely his best option between Navori and IE. I think it's going to go something like Ravenous into Kraken or Gale Force preference or game dependent. And then you'd go Navori, Phantom, Shrouders. There's a couple things you can do on Tryndamere. But looks really, really good. So I'm going to put Tryndamere up here as well. These two champs are definitely going to be the main abusers of it. Those were the first ones most people thought of. I want to talk about Quinn. I don't think much is going to happen with Quinn, but it'll be interesting to have a look at the data and see what it shows. Someone like Vayne is does build crit, but isn't going to build this because she wants Ginsu's, and Ginsu's is already her IE replacement, so it doesn't really change much there. Pretty sure there is no crit variation of Udyr. That doesn't exist. There is lethality, definitely, but not crit. Crit kill does exist, so I'm going to have to have a look at that one. So, we're down to 4 more champions. Garen and Kale. We'll go first. So Garen got buffed with his crit damage on his E fairly recently when they did the most recent patch of champion. They gave the champions unique build. So AP buffs on Kaiser, Malphite, AP buffs on Shyvana. Blech. AP Shyvana's boring and not interactive. Should never exist. But that's an entire different gripe that I have. Navori doesn't look like it's built at all on Garen, so it's kind of hard to determine anything. Does have positive win rates as a 3rd item, so probably also has positive win rate as a 4th item. Yeah, it might work. There could be some interactions where your E does more damage, your Q does more damage, and that overall is enough to compensate for not going IE. But when your E already scales with a crit, and you want that huge, because your Q also scales with crit. These are abilities which do have crit scaling within them, and I would technically amp the crit damage on those. It's hard to tell at the moment, but it's possible. But I'm gonna put it in my head have an interaction. Not a lot of games. Crit kill used to exist. It was the main thing played in Pro Play for a while, which was super weird because APK was still better during this time. Like, Kraken Cow does look pretty good overall. As a first option, it's better than Nash's, but I'm pretty sure her crit falls off compared to her AP. Best build, I think, is Wits into Kraken, and then Phantom. We have a look. Is there any Navori data? 6 games, won 4 of them. It's not really anything there. Could have an interaction where your Q's on a lower cooldown, your W's on a lower cooldown, so you can heal more. But if you're going crit, then your W's a high mana cost spell, and that really hurts. Maybe the E cooldown makes a difference, but that one's also kind of skeptical. So I'm gonna put it as a lack of data because this one doesn't really feel like it has a great interaction. Action built Ginsu's from what I remember. At least from when I used to play Action. Used to go Kraken Bork into Ginsu's or Kraken Stormrazor into Ginsu's. It was pretty linear. Navori doesn't really have any games. Maybe the E cooldown reduction, Q cooldown reduction give him an interaction with it, but because Ginsu's already replaced IE on Action, and it doesn't really have any data, I'm going to put it as a lack of data, but yeah, W's already on a really short cooldown as it is. The E, the damage amp won't matter that much. The damage on your E comes from your autos. Plus the Q damage isn't. You use your Q to proc your passive and kill waves over doing like damage with it. I mean, it still does damage, but you're using it a lot more for wave clearing and passive proccing. Quinn has 2 damaging spells, high cooldowns, so it could work on Quinn. So it's definitely Kraken first. Shilbo has a higher win rate, but significantly 10 times less games. Ravenous Quinn might also work as like a second option, as a second item option. I saw the only Quinn I've seen this patch built Ravenous first and completely popped off during the game, so might be something with it, but very limited games on that as well. Kraken, yeah, Kraken into Borg into with either Wits, Stormrazor. Navori has 53 games, really high win rate, but it's kind of hard to tell at the moment. I'm going to presume if you want to go Navori Quinn, you'd go Kraken Stormrazor Navori, or Kraken Collector Navori if you're going for a higher damage build. And then you can go LDR, Bloodthirst, a Stormrazor, Mortal Reminder. There's a couple options of what you can do afterwards. So that one might definitely be worth trying as well. So I'll put it as possible. But this is going to be how it looks for the moment. A lack of data and a lack of understanding for most people with the item makes it kind of hard to judge how good it actually is. But as the item develops and people understand it more, people build it in better situations, so we have a better understanding of how strong this item actually is. But for the moment, we can definitely say it's strong. Like, the item itself is good. It works well on Gangplank and Tryndamere, and most of the time over IE, it has a good win rate, but the lack of data and sample size, it just makes it so hard to measure. So unless my best idea would be look at people who one trick these champs and see if they have any thoughts on Navori, like good one tricks on the champions. But for now, we definitely know Tryndamere and Gangplank. Both of these are really good. So thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Make sure you tune into my stream, and I'll probably be playing some League and molding a bit. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.